Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm really, really excited for the talk today. I'm Shiv Shakti. I'm the founder of Shakti Farm Design.
I was looking at your bio and I was interested in the line that said you'd spent a decade at sea. And I'm really curious because now you go from a water life to a land life where your hands are in the soil all the time. How did the one thing influence the other? Maybe you could tell us how you got started in this.
Oh wow, that's one story I have to tell. Yes, I spent around 10 years at sea. I was second officer on merchant ships. For viewers, it's two ranks below captain if you've seen big cargo ships that carry cargo all around over the world. So I worked there and learned a lot of discipline. I was very, as a young person or as a young man, I was really excited to explore the sea. So I did that for almost a decade, and then I moved to States. And that discipline and that learning of getting everything ship shape, as they say it, was was in the back of my head, and it's very much in my blood. So I got into the agriculture. I was just like wondering, like, each one of us is going through life and how we are, how we all are going through lives and how just like the river flowing from a mountain to the ocean, sometimes slow, sometimes fast. So all these experiences that we gain in our life shapes us in one way or the other. So all these experiences shaped me towards agriculture, towards saying how we can create a sustainable world. How can we return to communities like how things were earlier? People were living together and growing food, and how can we go back with the modern technology? And then greenhouses happen to be, part of the thing that I really got excited about. So we had a property here, and I thought about doing something like a community-based living. So to feed the community, you need to grow food. And living in Central Oregon, it has been it's a challenge to grow here. So we got a big size greenhouse, 96 by 30 feet long, and I wanted to do it in a permaculture way, not like putting chemicals and fertilizers. So I did all the heavyweight, tried to, like from my background, I got into the details of nut and bolts, how it will be done through permaculture, how to make these systems so flawless and in a way that it's easily manageable because not everyone is a farmer, neither am I, or neither was I back then. So I created a whole booklet, I created a whole system which is easy to follow, and it's a turnkey kind of an experience. It was very learning and it was very enjoyable. I had woofers from all over the world come and stay with us. I had a guy from Saudi Arabia come learning. So it has been a really interesting journey.
So I grew up around greenhouses. My uncle was an orchidologist, and so I'm familiar with the idea, but it was for ornamental plants. It wasn't for food. And we have community gardens here in Santa Barbara. I've been involved in those, and I love that. But I think you've done something different, haven't you? What have you done that's different?
I think I put a lot of love, first of all, in,
Okay.
and then I thought about it. I sat down and I say, like, you can't eat lettuce every day. It's good, but you need to create something healthy as well. You have to create a system which is in itself helping the whole environment. Like in case of greenhouse, the system that I'm using a lot of companion planting, which means plants that grow
Oh,
with.
okay.
So think about a food forest where there's like everything growing, and each and every food that is growing is A, nutritious for your body, and B, also creating an ecosystem inside the greenhouse where they are helping each other to grow well, like fighting pests, fighting diseases. And it's really fascinating. Like when you grow companion planting together, they help each other. And what does companion planting even means, if I may explain? Is like some plants, they grow well together because they're not competing for the same nutrients.
Oh, okay.
So when they grow well together, they're not fighting for the same nutrients, so they don't have any competition. So they form alliances among themselves. Now, if to this mix, if you add mycelium,
Right.
which which is like underground network, they also play like a symbiotic relationships.
Mm.
There's so much to learn from plants, by the way. So what they do is they form a relationship with the roots of the plant. Since my base of the greenhouse is all wood logs, I use like wood logs as a base because I don't believe in personal belief that I don't believe in using pesticides or adding fertilizers. So what they do is since the roots are thick, they can't really go in the depth of the rotting logs, whereas mycelium is very thin, it goes underneath.
Oh.
And then what it does is it's very fascinating. What it does is like it doesn't have chlorophyll, so it can't make sugars. So the plants supply the sugars to the mycelium. The mycelium brings the minerals to the plant. So it's a symbiotic relationship. And then that since this relationship works very well, they don't want any disruption. So they all come together to fight against diseases and all that stuff.
So in my mind, because I'm familiar that if you bring marigolds into a garden, for instance, that they're a very good companion plant. I'm thinking of these pairings that you make, and I've seen some pictures of your greenhouses. They're very, very lush. Is it the case that every plant you've figured out what the companion is for all of the plants, so that every plant has a buddy, so to speak?
Yes, that's correct. I did.
Oh,
Yeah, that's the nerd part of me. I did figure out which all plants work well together. And yes, you said about marigold, they help repel aphids
yes,
because they don't like the smell of it.
right.
So it's really fascinating. And the thing which I really personally am passionate about, not just greenhouses, is also about community. We have to learn so much from the plants, like coming together. You know, we are missing that aspect. I always wonder when was the last time you spoke with our neighbors?
Mm.
And if we have a greenhouse in our neighborhood where all neighbors are coming together, there would be a community growing together with the plants, as you said, lushly growing. So is us as humans. We need to learn from them.
There's a lot about community that we've talked about here on the show. Lots of different aspects of it. One of them is clearly around our food, the communal table, communing together, community. All of those things are the same. And I'm curious in that situation. I think I know the answer, but I'd love the audience to hear the answer. How is this resonating with the kids in the community?
This is a very beautiful question. I was blessed that I got a grant from Central Oregon Health Council. We were the first business actually to get that,
Oh,
and I made a greenhouse for a school in a rural area called Sun River here. So it's really amazing that how kids are learning from a younger age how to grow food. They're understanding. Like when I grew up, I did not know. I thought the food come from supermarket, like
right,
most of
right.
us. But now these kids have I made them a curriculum. I mean, the teachers are so amazing. I've given them a booklet which teaches them what soil is, what seeds are, how to grow year round in this climate. So you know, like it's a hope, seed of hope that you know,
Sure.
like we are putting in children that they will learn, and tomorrow when they have families, they can grow in
Right.
their backyard.
There's a great quote from a TED talk where he said that kids who grow kale will eat kale.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So it feels to me because I'm as a chef, I'm interested in food. I've been interested where food comes from. I love to grow food, like anything related to it, the history of it, why certain foods grow in certain places, and all of that. So we've, as a people, as humans, have been figuring out food for thousands of years and figuring out all of the things that you're now putting together. It feels like we've gotten away from that, and now you're part of a movement of people bringing that back. Add to that, though, it's 2025 and technology is a big part of everything we do. Is technology helping you right now, or do you park the technology when you come into the greenhouse and it doesn't have a role?
I think for me, I always believe in collaboration and symbiotic relationships.
Mm.
So since technology is advancing, why not, go with the flow and use that technology to our advantage? So the greenhouses that I'm making, I can confidently say I'm in the top five in the whole of America that is advanced greenhouses. And we are using knowledge as well as technically advanced greenhouses. Like as far as the structure goes, the structure is it can withstand 105 miles of wind and all the snow load that happens in at least in our climate. It's really heavy snow. It can take all the snow load. And it can
Oh,
take
wow.
all the winds. And also with the AI coming in, I think it's amazing if you can figure out what kind of crop is going to give you how much yield. That is great. Since climate is changing, as you may know, like how in
Right.
California fires have been happening, and with this new regulation, as you know, politically, there's going to be labor shortage, and there's going to be a lot of like the prices of the food are going to increase. So with the greenhouse system in your locality or wherever you are, if the systems are placed, and since I've shared that these are very easy maintained greenhouse because it's all automated, so that way you can a know where your food is coming from, b it's super healthy because it's growing in front of you, and c you would have food security for your area. So I think with technology we have to walk hands in hand.
You used a word which I loved at the very beginning. You said a food forest. We've heard of food deserts. There's lots of food deserts throughout the US. I happen to live in Santa Barbara, where we're blessed with it's a food forest as well. Um, I'm I'm curious, when I say the word regenerative, because that's also a very popular thing right now that people are looking at that. What part of this is regenerative?
uh, I want to take it a step further than regenerative because I feel like Uh, to me personally, regenerative is like it makes sense. You're regenerating soil and stuff, but I feel like in greenhouses and when you are working with permaculture, you have to work with the nature and the environment around you.
Mm,
So so with the systems that I'm putting, yes, they are regenerative, but at the same point, symbiotic or symbiosis is like something I want to like add on in my life to that regeneration is like symbiotic relationship with your soil. How is your soil doing? You have to ask that first before you go to the plant or how much food you're getting. So if you have a healthy soil, which is microbially like, I mean, they say there are so many. The only reason the human body is operating well is because of the microbes in our gut.
right.
So
Correct.
so same principle goes to the soil. How healthy is your soil? The fruits will come if your soil is living well, if your soil is doing well, the fruits is like the byproduct. I mean, I don't worry about the food, I worry about my soil. So
Mm.
so I really do a lot of emphasis on how am I maintaining my soil with those woodlogs placed in, with those compost, biochars, microbes, and doing cover crops on top of that ensures that the soil is healthy. And if the soil is healthy, or if your gut is healthy, your whole system is going to be healthy.
One of the things that I've learned is like rotation planting, right? We know that certain plants will take more of a certain ingredient out of the soil, and that in in let's say big ag, they're going to add that nutrient back into the soil, whether it's a natural process or not. They're going to do that because they're doing, tons and tons of production. How do you manage that idea? Because I love that the soil's the most important. If you talk to any farmer, vintner, anybody, it's the soil, the soil, the soil. However, if I'm relying on this greenhouse to produce so much stuff for my community of, I don't know how many families it feeds, but let's say it's a dozen families that this greenhouse feeds. Is there downtime? Like for part of it, yeah, we've got to let this go a season and we've got to do plant some plants, or is the very fact that you're doing companion planting and you're thinking about this the whole time, you actually alleviate the need to um, cycle because you're constantly adding and growing to the soil? That was a long question, but do you understand my question?
Uh, yes, yes, I do. I understand the question, and it's very relevant. So I understand. Like the biggest feeder, as they say, can be tomatoes or potatoes. They are the heavy feeders. So how do we do it? Like in our greenhouse, we have a promise of feeding year round. So each companion, we make beds first of all. They are color. I use color schemes because I like colors. So each color scheme grows different kind of crops. So say for in purple, if you visualize, there's purple, red, and blue and green. If this season we grew potatoes in the purple area, then the next season we will do companion planting in that bed, which with the plants that fix that kind of nutrients in that soil.
Mm,
Like for
mm,
fava beans, if you grow fava beans, it fixes the nitrogen in the soil.
right, right.
And then the bed that we have used, like for instance, this year we used fava bean bed somewhere else, and the next season we'll put the tomatoes in that bed. So we keep on rotating. We don't like put too much pressure on the beds. So we keep on rotating. We keep on feeding the soil with cover crops, and then with doing companion planting. And on top of that, already like with the hugelculture system, the logs takes around 8 to 10 years to break down. So 8 to 10 years, it's already taken care of. That you don't have to do that much of fertilization work. And on top of that, adding mycelium and microbes and different kind of stuff, they also keep on replenishing the soil. And so that way, the system is somehow, like I said, symbiotic, and you understand how your soil is working, how your greenhouse works. So the booklet that I made explains each and everything in detail: when to shift, when to do the rotation, and how to do the rotation. So it's pretty much figured out in our systems.
Shiv, I appreciate you doing all the hard work to solve these problems. And thank you so much for bringing all of this information to our TEDx audience.
Oh, thank you. It's just an honor. Like I'm so excited to share because I can't keep this all inside. It has to be shared.
Thank you very much.